Okay, today's daf is Yoma Chavches, Yoma 28. The Gemara on Chavchet Amud Beis, about 7-8 lines down. Amar of Safra Slusei de Avraham Michim Shachrei Kosle. It says that Avram would daven. Rashi says Slusei Avram Tilos Erev Shalo. Sounds like he would daven Mariv right after Chatzos, right after the wall started to blacken. The sun was overhead, the wall started to blacken. So at Chatzos already he would daven Tfilas Mariv. Rav Yosef, Anam Avram Nekom V'Nigmor. Rav Yosef asked, we're going to learn from Avram Avinu. Rashi says, Bas Lamed Lamden Elios Rizin K'Avram. The Aruch explains this question as, how could we learn from Avram? He was Makayim the Torah before it was commanded. Obviously it was Lefnei Mishras dinner. It wasn't the right halacha. How do we have to learn from him? How could we learn from him that this is the right time? Obviously the additional questions, we know the halacha is not like this. The halacha is Mariv, you have to daven after Shkia, or maybe Rabbi Yehuda says Plag on Mincha, but definitely not from Chatzos, you don't daven Mariv. Amarava Tana Garme Avram Anon Lo Gamrina Minay. The Rava answers back to Rav Yosef. He says, Tana learned from Avram, but Anon Lo Gamrina Minay. How do you read this line in the Gemara? So seemingly the way most people probably read it is that the following Tana we're about to read learned from Avram that you could do things that were Zriz Magdim and Mitzvos, or things that you weren't actually mechayev in at that time. As the Gemara says, the Tanya of Yom Hashmini, Yom Basar Allah Samalamich, Kol Yom Kar Shalamila, Shuzriz Magdim and Mitzvos. Never Yashkam Rabokar Yakbosh. That Avram Avinu did bris milah early in the morning. He was Zriz Magdim and Mitzvos. So you see from Milah that he did it early. Pashas I want to say is that the Gemara, when it says Rizim Makdim and Mitzvos, it means that Avram Vayashkem Raboker, it wasn't a Neitzacham. He did it before Neitzacham. He did it Alos HaShachar. Vayashkem is really early in the morning. And we know the Gemara in Megillah says that really Lechatchila, the mitzvah of Milah, is only from Neitzachama, not from Alos HaShachar. Only b'diavad your Yotzei Alos HaShachar. So Zriza, and that would fit Zriza Magdim and the mitzvah. Zriza and Magdim Kodem. Magdimin is you do it before the mitzvah, before the tzivui. And Zriza do the mitzvahs before they're actually mitzvah. They're mitzvah and Neitzachama. It's chal the mitzvah, but the evet it's chal. You could be yotzei at alos hashachar. Zriza do it earlier than in the tzivui. They do it at a time when it's chal. It would work. It's just they're not mitzvah in the mitzvah. So the Gemara, Amarava, the seeming way of reading the Gemara is that the Tana learned from Avram that we could do things early, even though there's no tzivui. So certainly that should be the halacha. I want to read the Gemara differently. That Rav Yosef was asking the question, Avram Nekom V'Nigmor. We're going to learn from Avram Avinu. Amarava Tana Gamar Avram Anam Lo Gamar. It's not a rhetorical question. It's saying that this Bryce learned from Avram that it's a exemplary thing to do what Avram Avinu did. He's reading Makdim on the mitzvah. He did the mitzvah of Milah before the Zman Tzivur. We don't learn from Avram Avinu. Avram Avinu did something which wasn't the best thing. And just like the person who asked this question is Rav Yosef, the Gemara in Baba Kama on Daf Pei Zayin Amud Aleph, Rav Yosef was blind. And Rav Yosef says, eventually the Gemara comes out, it's greater to do a mitzvah when you're mitzvah, when you're commanded, than you're not mitzvah, and that's the maskana of the Gemara over there. And that's what Rav Yosef says, that he hoped that he was mitzvah in the mitzvahs even though he was blind, because gadol mitzvah osa yoser misheina mitzvah osa. That's what Rav is answering to Rav Yosef. He's saying, Rav Yosef, don't worry about it. This brisa about Milah that Avram did that Avram got up in the morning to do the bris Milah. It was what's it called? He got up early to do the bris Milah, or actually to do the pasuk's talking about he got up to do the Akedah early. But whatever we learn out from there, Vayashkem Raboka, he got up early in the morning, so he got up early for Akedah. He also got up early for the Milah. When he did the bris milah on himself and Yishmael, so he did everything early before the time. That's not what we do. We wait till the time, to the Zman HaTzivui. we don't do it early. We don't do it at the time when it's chal. And that's what he was saying, a statement. And the Gemara later on, the Gemara says towards the bottom, the second wide line, Amarav Kim Avraham Avinu es kol Torah kula. Shnemar Eko Shema Avraham Mekoli. It says that Avraham was Mekayim the whole Torah, even before Matan Torah. And the Gemara says, where do we know that from? Amarle Im Kim Mitzvos of Sarasa Lamali. Amarav Item Ravashi Kim Avraham Avinu Afil Irvei Tavshil. Shnemar Torah say Achas Torah Shebachtav Achas Torah Shebalpeh. It says that Avraham Avinu was Mekayim the whole Torah. Now, he was Mekayim the Torah. The Tzivoy of the Torah was only from Matan Torah. So it's nice what we're saying over here. It's not saying that it was a good thing what Avraham did. The Gemara is saying he was Mekayim the whole Torah. Then you know, the pasuk says that the world was created for the Torah. Lo brisi yomam huko shamayim aretz lo samti. Yom alayla huko shamayim aretz lo samti. So Hashem made a tanai with the world that it was only in the sky based on the kiyum of the Torah. The Torah existed, it was chal immediately on creation, but it was only mitzvah. The tzivah only happened in Matan Torah. So Avraham Avinu was before Matan Torah. He was Mekayim the Torah. He was reason makdim in the mitzvahs. He was a zaris. He was makdim before the actual mitzvah was mitzvah. It's not saying a good thing. It's saying that's what his midah was. His midah was to do that. And the Gemara says he was Mekayim Irvei Tavshilin. Now it's interesting. The Gemara picks Irvei Tavshilin. Achat Torah Shebatav, Achat Torah Shebal Peh. Now Irvei Tavshilin is not from the Torah. It sounds in the Gemara Achat Torah Shebal, Achat Torah Shebal Peh. Torah Shebal Peh. We're talking about Daraisa. Rashi even says Avil Irvei Tavshilin Sheino Halachal Meshusina El Takana Sofim Shaskil Nasak, and it's Darabanan, like the Gemara says in Psachim. The Gemara says on Daf Mem Vavam Beis. The Gemara says that Mido Raisa Sarkei Shabbos Nasan be Yom Tov, that you can cook from Yom Tov to Shabbos Mido Raisa, because they're both one kedusha. Midrabanan, they made a gzeira that you shouldn't do that, and therefore you need Erev Tavshilin in order for a heker. So I want to say over here the same thing by Erev Tavshilin, that even though it says Sarkei Shabbos Nasan be Yom Tov, that's the halacha, that's a tzivah. The tzivah of the Torah is that you don't have to worry about cooking from Yom Tov to Shabbos. But in terms of Avraham Avinu, one step above that, he went the kiyum of the Torah, even midoraisa, is that Tzarech Shabbos is not a nasin b'yom tov. The kiyum of the Torah, the higher level, the actual chalos Torah was that it's not nasin b'yom tov. Lamaisa, the tzivui is you don't have to worry about it, but the chalos Torah was that you should worry about. And he was makdim in the mitzvahs. He did things which in the mekayim of the Torah even when you were a mitzvah. And so that's the Gemara saying. It's not necessarily a compliment to Avraham, and that's what it says. He would daven Mariv early. It could be that maybe there's a kiyum of davening Mariv after Chatzos, but the Tzivoy definitely doesn't start until Plaga Mincha or Shkia.